Hi everyone, so this week's tip, we're talking about practice. How can we get the most out of our practice, especially this time of the year, where it can be less than fortunate to what we want, it can be cold, wet, windy, but how can we get the most out of it? How can we practice, and how can we practice efficiently? So hopefully this video will help you, obviously if you're indoors, even practicing like I'm going to do now, or if you're outside and you don't have a lot of time. For me personally, I don't practice anywhere near as much as I would like. I love practicing and I like working on my game, like all of you do. But how should you do it? Well, me personally, I like to have a plan. I like to get in there and I like to work on my game and know exactly what I'm doing when I get there. So I'm going to run you through what I'm working on, and this is kind of how I would like you to put your things to work on. So for me personally, at the moment, I'm working on my grip a little bit. I'm trying to make sure that my right hand stays on top a little bit. I tend to get the hand a little bit under, I get the face a little bit too close, so that's one of the things I'm working on. So for me, my grip is really, really important. Secondly, I always like to work on my posture, make sure that I'm in posture, make sure that I'm in perfect balance, and I like to pivot in balance. And I tend to use the balance pads as a really good way to do that, and that's something that I work on. The other thing that I tend to be working on pretty much all the time for probably the last couple of years is I work really, really hard on my takeaway. I personally tend to get a little bit too close going back. I feel like I get the club head up a little bit more, and most importantly, I get the club a little bit more on line at the top. I tend to get a little bit across the line, even if I play quite well with it a bit across the line. I don't necessarily like it, and I struggle to fade it from there. So sometimes I try and get the club a little bit more on line at the top, and for me that feels like I'm picking the club up and kind of laying the club off at the top. So I do quite a lot of rehearsals in front of the mirror. Then the final thing I probably spend most of my time during the playing season on is making sure I'm working on my impact position, making sure I'm trying to get my arms down in front of my body, making sure that my impact position looks good from this location and from this side. I'm making sure that I've got my arms coming down in front of me, feel like I'm keeping my lower body working backwards rather than bumping inwards, and that allows me to really control the golf ball. So that's how I would do it. So they're the things I'm working on, and you'll have the things you're working on. But how do you practice those? How do I do all of those things in a practice session, and what would it look like? Okay, so for me personally, this is how I would do it. I would spend some time in the mirror, looking at my grip, making sure that's right. I would then make sure that I feel like I'm in posture, I'm in balance, so I'd kind of bend over from the hips, make sure I'm feeling confident, feel like my legs are really strong. And then when I was feeling like I was doing that, I would use the balance pads. So I'd stand on my balance pads like this, and then I would try and hold my balance from my core and my legs, and then try and practice my backswing. Now this is all about coiling up and controlling with the lower body. This is really quite hard to do. It's hard to talk whilst doing it, like this. And I'd probably do 3 to 5 of those. Then there's a mirror behind the camera. That's what I'm often looking at to make sure that I'm doing the movements right. So from here, this is how I'd work on this as well. So I feel like I'm in posture. I'd work hard on my takeaway, make sure that I'm checking my takeaway in the mirror. From there, I'd make a top of the backswing position, and I'd rehearse that maybe 2 or 3 times like this. Make sure that I'm feeling like I'm getting to the positions that I want, feel like I'm picking the club up. Then I do some exaggerations, feel like I'm picking the club up, feel like I'm maybe laying it off a little bit to exaggerate what the feelings I need to do in my golf swing. And from there, I'd hit 2 or 3 balls. And all I would do in this is work on my takeaway for 2 or 3 shots, feeling like this way. Probably wouldn't have a lot of power. It'd just be working on the positions. I'd do 2 or 3 of those. I'd video it back and double check that I'm doing it right. Then I would do 2 or 3 swings feeling like I was working on my position at the top of the swing. And I'd be making sure again that I'm doing that right. So I'd do one like this. And then I'd watch the video back and make sure that I hit my positions. Do I need to exaggerate it a little bit more? Most likely. Most people underdo it, especially when you're hitting a shot. You'll definitely underdo it. And then once I start to feel like it's going in the right direction, I would work a little bit more at controlling the flight of the ball and impact position, and then I might ramp the speed up a little bit. So I'd probably do some shots here. For example, when I did the video last week on doing the review of the Rhapsody launch monitor, I felt like my ball flight was a little bit too high. I hadn't practiced very much. So for me, I'd probably add in some punch work here. So this would be impact related. So I'd be really feeling like I'm driving through, trying to lower the launch angle. And for me, I would probably try and really hit this one as low as possible and try and drive it down. Now, obviously, outside you're not going to have a launch monitor to work on specific numbers, but for me on here, I've got 9 iron in my hand. Yeah, I'm looking for a 20-degree launch angle. 20 and a half is pretty good. Maybe would like to a little bit lower, and I might do 3 or 4 shots like this. And then after I've done this, I would do it all over again. And I would get into practice and I would do that whole routine probably 4 or 5 times, probably going to hit between 25 and 50 balls, probably. And then the last 25 I might hit normal shots, more full shots, maybe go up to a longer club, and I'd go through my routine. But I want to get in and out of practice this time of year. Doesn't have to be slow. Go with an absolute plan of what you need to work on, check that you're doing it right, and exaggerate it. Now, me personally, at this moment in time, I wouldn't be worried too much about where the ball's going. I'd be working on mainly, am I improving my positions, especially if you're trying to make some serious progress in your game. Worry more about the positions and what you're trying to work on, rather than whether you hit it perfectly flush out the middle of the club. I see this quite a lot recently, where players are making some really good progress, but because strike is not flush or not out in the middle, they feel like they're not hitting it very well or they're not doing the right things. And actually, when you monitor that, they're actually doing exactly what they should be doing in their swing, but they're just not hitting the middle of the club. That's absolutely fine, but a lot of players sometimes think they're doing something wrong when actually they're just not hitting the middle. And it's really important that you know that you're swinging the club properly and just not hitting the middle. Then you can spend some time trying to hit the middle of the club. So make sure that you're reviewing what you're doing, you're working hard on it, and if you need any advice as far as like working on your swing and how long it should take, I only need to look at Rory McIlroy's video from Abu Dhabi, him talking about how when he played the Dunhill Links Trophy, he committed to spending 3 weeks in a studio like this, but not watching the ball flight, so with no monitor on, no nothing, just working on his positions, trying to improve. And if we've got one of the greatest players of our generation understanding that he sometimes needs to stop watching the ball and work on his swing, if he needs to do it, we sure as hell do, and I'm definitely going to do some when I put the video down, do some more practice and work at mine. So I hope this video helps you get the most out of your practice, understand how to structure your practice, and make sure that you can keep improving, because next year could be your best year to date. And if you do it in order like this, single pieces, add them up over a period of time, you'll play better golf.